Welcome to the 14th episode of the Beyond Retirement Learning Series. I'm Susan Graham. I'm a certified elder law attorney, and I'm located in Boise, Idaho. My business name is Senior Edge Legal. The topic we're going to discuss today is the dangers of deeding land or real property into a trust. Now, I know your goal is to get useful information and also to see if we might be an appropriate member for your team. I have three goals. One, to give you really useful information to help you have a secure future. Another one is to give you free legal forms. And a third goal is if you want to visit with me, there's a mechanism to do that. There's an evaluation form at the bottom of your page, so anytime you can complete that and return that to my office. And I'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of this program. So let's get started. The dangers of transferring real property into a trust, some of them are really dangerous and some not. First of all, what's real property or land? In the law, real property is dealt with differently than personal property. Personal property is checking accounts, savings accounts, investments, things in your home. But real property is land, or a house, or a condo, or a rental. And real property also includes mineral rights, oil, and other mineral rights such as coal and silver and gold. Wouldn't that be nice if you have some of that? Okay, so what about if you deed your home and you transfer the home out of your individual name into a revocable trust? Do you still get to keep the homeowner's exemption? Well, yes, you can keep the homeowner's exemption. The homeowner's exemption is a form you fill out with the county to give you a break on the property taxes so you have lower property taxes because you're treating that home as your primary residence. But when you deed a home into a trust, a revocable trust and some irrevocable trust, you need to fill out an additional form with the county to keep the homeowner's exemption. If you fail to do that, you're going to have to pay higher property taxes. Do you have to notify a mortgage company when you transfer your home into the trust? If you have a mortgage on your primary residence, your home, no, there's a federal law that says you don't have to notify the mortgage company. They can't do anything to accelerate the payment on the mortgage. But if you transfer a rental or some other property, a cabin, a second home, into the name of the trust, and it's not your primary residence and there's a mortgage, that can be a big problem. Almost every mortgage has something called a due on sale clause, meaning that if you transfer the ownership of that property that has that mortgage, you have to pay the full balance of the mortgage. The mortgage company didn't contract with somebody else to pay that mortgage and carry that mortgage. They only contracted with you. So you need to be very careful. If you transfer something other than your primary residence into the trust, another piece of real property, you can trigger that due on sale clause. One of the ways we avoid that is when we put a rental into a trust, somebody owns a rental and there's a mortgage, we still have them sign a deed transferring that rental into the trust, but we never record the deed. We wait to record that deed when the person who owned the property dies, or if they become incompetent and we need to sell the property because the mortgage company's never going to get on the ball fast enough to accelerate that payment and require that due on sale clause to be followed. So that's one way we handle the mortgage company for other properties than your primary home. Will it trigger a tax when you transfer real property into your trust? No, it's just tax neutral. It doesn't do anything. It's if it's going into a revocable trust, it's not a gift. It's nothing. You continue to use your own Social Security number as the tax ID number for that property, so it's just tax neutral. And after your death, do you need to probate your estate, the estate of the person who owned the real property, if you already have transferred that property into a revocable trust? The answer is no, you don't need to probate that. Probate means go to court when you have a dead person's name on real property. We're only talking about real property here. That means, again, a house or a rental or a condo or a cabin, that kind of thing. So if you've already had a deed and that deed was recorded, again, except for real property that's not your primary residence that has a mortgage, but if the deed was recorded in the county where that property was resided, it goes to the recorder's office, there is no need to probate that estate. Because when it comes to who can sign to transfer that real property when the first person who created the trust is dead, all that happens is the successor trustee files the appropriate papers to sign as trustee to transfer that title to whomever it's supposed to go to under the estate plan, or to whomever the new buyer might be. So that's pretty easy. I will share with you that if you own real property outside the state of Idaho, I'm only licensed in the state of Idaho, so I cannot do a deed for a property that's titled in the state of Oregon. I'm not licensed in Oregon. And if I do a deed in the state of Oregon, I could lose my license in Idaho for practicing law without a license in the state of Oregon. And that's ridiculous to do that for a deed. So what I'm telling you is if you own real property outside the state of Idaho, you need to be certain that someone prepares the deed to transfer that real property into the trust, if that's appropriate under the conditions we've just talked about, which again, if it's not your residence and there's a mortgage, you don't want to do the deed. But you can sign the deed, as I said before, and just wait. And then if there was a mortgage on that property, again, when somebody's dead, all that you do is record that deed at that time, and that gives the successor trustee the power to sign that deed to transfer it to whomever it's supposed to go to, according to the estate plan. So it's critical that you pay attention when you're dealing with real property, with land. Again, a home, a cabin, a condo, a timeshare, mineral rights, that kind of thing. It's really important that you actually coordinate those assets appropriately. Under Idaho law, if someone dies and that dead person has real property titled in their name, it will be necessary in almost every circumstance to probate their estate, meaning someone will have to file a petition with the court, say, hey, judge, appoint me as personal representative of the estate of this dead person, so that I, as the personal representative, have the power to sign on behalf of a dead person to deal with the real property. It doesn't matter the value of the real property. It could be $5,000, some lot out in the middle of the desert, or it could be something very valuable. So it's important when you use a trust-based estate plan to coordinate your titled assets, and the real property is critical that it be titled appropriately. So we've covered the dangers of transferring titled real property assets into a trust, doing it the right way and forgetting to do it, or doing it in the wrong way where you might trigger that entire mortgage to be paid. The next time that we meet on the 15th episode, we're going to talk about what if your parents won't talk to you about their estate plan, and how can you break the ice to be helpful for them. At the end of this page, or the screen that you're looking at, there's an evaluation form. And if you would be good enough to fill it out, that would be very helpful to me. First of all, you can critique me and tell me how I might improve. Also, let me know what additional topics you would like to speak about. You can also access the free legal forms, which are powers of attorney for health and finances, a living will. Those documents are available on my website, and that information is available to you when you fill out that form. Lastly, if you feel you would like to meet with me, just indicate that, and someone from my office will contact you and work out the details for that. Thank you so much for visiting with me on this topic.